1 week later, the new rumors and overly stretched stories that degraded Khan kept coming in and spread among the masses of the entire Rocco's empire. The public had been thoroughly brainwashed into thinking that Khan was nothing but a ruthless and tyrannical ruler who showed his true colors after gaining power. And all his previous deeds were nothing but a pretense to appear as a kind and honorable sovereign. But out of nowhere, a shocking video recording surfaced and spread through the entire empire in a single day. In the Verlassen fiefdom, however, hey, don't forget that it was also Lord Victor who successfully attacked and broke through the line of defense in all 4 directions. Otherwise, those mindless monsters wouldn't have been able to break through their formations easily. It would have taken a lot of time, and maybe they would have managed to send a distress signal. A voice reverberated around the crowd as the broadcast screens suddenly started across all the cities and towns, instantly garnering the attention of the citizens who were going about their lives. That peasants like them live only to serve the powerful. After this incident gets blown out of proportion, it won't even take a month before the government from the capital calls for official impeachment. A face filled with contempt towards the commoner class appeared as the recordings carried on. After a few minutes, the faction council and Lord Faction Leader are indeed foresight. They used his savior of the commoners act against himself. This will be the perfect revenge against him for killing Commander Aswala and defaming our demi-human faction. Victor's voice resounded through the entire fiefdom. This same scenario followed throughout the whole empire, where this pre-recorded message was shared using projection artifacts. Every major street, populated zones, shops, restaurants, and even military forces stationed on all border regions of the empire were somehow shown the same thing by people who appeared out of nowhere. And finally, after this conversation amongst the people in the recording ended, a face of a young man donned in black and gray attire suddenly appeared on the screens. This person was the talk of the whole Rocco's empire for the last 2 weeks and probably was the most hated person during that time. People of the Verlassen fiefdom and every other citizen watching this recording across the Rocco's empire. I, Consalvatore, would like to share the truth about the massacre of the soldiers that happened 15 days ago. As you can see, Victor Apopes of the Apopes clan, who was also sent by the demi-human faction under the pretext of gaining experience and helping the military of the fiefdom, has admitted that he is the one who instigated and carried on the massacre of the innocent soldiers who were only doing their duty to protect the borders. And not only that, but how the demi-human faction along with their faction leader, Jeremiah Themis himself, were the ones who conspired this whole plan. Spoke Khan with a somber expression. They brutally and heartlessly murdered the brave and honorable soldiers of the military who were only carrying their duties just for the sake of bringing down my name and reputation, to quell their hatred against me. They ordered a massacre of our innocent warriors who have families, parents and friends but chose to give their lives for protecting our great empire. The more he talked, the heavier his tone became. These are the men and women who are the main reason why you can sleep silently at night. Yet, in order to gain political advantage and defame me so they could take over the Verlassen fiefdom and get control of its resources, the demi-human committed the biggest taboo of them all, said Khan with a saddened expression as if he was shaken by this loss. As of now, Victor Apopes has fled the Barawa region and we are tracking his whereabouts. And all those people in the recording have been confirmed to be the members of many clans of the demi-human faction itself. He revealed, "My power and authority are limited. I cannot even ask for fair justice for all of my fallen soldiers since the system of the empire is controlled by the 3 factions. I will do what I must to avenge my people," spoke Khan in a domineering and vengeful tone. "As for those who doubted me, vilified me, and spread fake rumors about me, you can guess who was behind it all. So I'm not even going to justify myself. It's a great shame that the fiefdom and the empire I have devoted my life to was easily swayed and believed whatever lies that fell on their ears. It's not me who failed the people. It's the citizens of the fiefdom and the rest of the empire who have failed me," spoke Khan with a dejected face as if he was greatly wronged. His crestfallen face instantly touched the emotions of every person watching the recording, and a sudden wave of guilt and disappointment about themselves spread across the entire population of the empire. Billions of people who saw the truth behind the massacre, which had become the center of their attention over the past 2 weeks, felt like they were nothing but fools who jumped to conclusions and labeled Khan as a heartless and cruel tyrant who was the personification of lies and deceit. Only now did they find out that they were lied to since the very beginning, and instead of blaming the real culprits, they blamed the one person who actually cared about the lives of commoners and soldiers alike. On the other hand, the military soldiers across the entire empire were furious. Their gazes were filled with absolute hatred, and millions of vengeful expressions appeared amongst their ranks. This was too much. Their lives were treated like ants by the rich and powerful and slaughtered just so the mighty could gain money, resources, and control over a piece of land of the empire. While everyone felt like the demi-human faction had crossed the limit and should be held responsible for their crimes, they also saw the face of a man who was wronged by them, and yet he chose to fight for truth and justice. At this moment, this wasn't just Khan's war, and neither did he stand alone. Rather, he had the support of the strongest force of the whole empire, the people. After Khan's recording regarding the truth of the massacre spread 3 days ago, the entire Rocco's empire went into an uproar. Public marches, rallies, and campaigns against the demi-human faction took a violent turn. The government that was composed of the top 3 noble factions and their members holding important positions in every sector had their hands filled with work. Khan's act of vengeance, without even directly picking a fight against the demi-human faction, had instigated a headache that none had a remedy of. No matter what they did or tried to cover up the matter, the public outrage as well as the military itself kept rising to an extent where a civil war seemed imminent. But the situation for the faction in question was worse than anyone could hope. Their collective businesses of all the clans, number of employees, properties, shares, their market reputation, and even the support of subsidiary clans kept falling to the point that the once powerful faction of the Rocco's empire was entirely shunned by the people. With each passing day, many people who did not want to have their name attached or wanted to detach themselves from this faction broke their ties on the accord of moral and ethical values. Victor's confession, along with the other members of their faction, played a detrimental part, as he, the once known as the representative of the demi-human faction during the Emperor's chosen competition, had basically verified the truth. On the other hand, this presented the perfect opportunity for the pureblood Va-neutral factions at the same time. This was by far the biggest opportunity they had to cause the downfall of this faction in the past 100 years, ever since the Great War and coup against the imperial family. In the never-ending power struggle, Khan created the best opening for them, and without even a second thought, they started to ostracize everyone and everything related to the demi-human faction. Soon, they too entered the fray and dedicated their forces and resources to bring down their opponent they wanted to bite a piece off of for decades. With this, the tables were turned on the demi-human faction by Khan, who didn't even lift a finger and used their own weapon to cut off their hands and feet. Bang! A clenched fist banged on a round table inside the ginormous castle. Your son ruined our faction's name again. Now, how the hell are we supposed to recover from this? He even mentioned mine and the faction council's name. That blabbermouth has ruined all of us. This can only be covered up with blood, shouted an old elven mage, aka the faction leader of the demi-human faction, Jeremiah Themis. And you? He looked at a white bearkin who sat across the table. The faction council agreed to your proposition because you have been pressuring all of us to avenge your brother. Now tell me, will you take the responsibility? Asked Jeremiah to the bearkin. The one who sat across the table was none other than the elder brother of Commander Aswala, and the current clan leader of the Balu clan. Infuriating. This is too infuriating. Only if I could go there, I would have killed the Salvatore bastard with my own hands, spoke the elf as he grasped his head in frustration and pulled his hair. I shouldn't have listened to any of you, he shouted. While the big powerhouses were having their version of Clash of Clans, Khan had announced a fiefdom-wide curfew. No one was allowed to leave or enter Verlassen fiefdom in the name of searching for Victor and his accomplices. But in reality, he already had all those people imprisoned. The main reason he was putting up this act was to gain an absolute advantage over the enemy side. Because using these people, he could find all the connected invaders who spread rumors about him. Also, those who were planted as spies in government and military alike answered to these people. So Khan intended to use the big fish and catch the small prawns in order to clean his turf from possible espionage. Ronan was left in charge of torturing those people, and make use of Covenant soldiers and the other generals to arrest the people of the demi-human faction. In the past 3 days, they had caught over 40,000 of these spies already. Yet the more they caught, the more spies were revealed, which made Khan focus his attention on purifying his fiefdom first. As for the main figureheads, he planned to bring them out in the people's court, to say that they helped Victor escape under the orders of their faction. So this way, Khan would publicly defame the demi-human faction rightfully. Just yesterday, he had requested the central government to investigate the matter and search the properties owned by the faction under the pretext of them still hiding Victor even now, which eventually turned into a godsend opportunity for pure blood and neutral faction to fuck up the entire demi-human faction even more legally, since the people of the Empire and military alike were filled with anger. Compared to him, the two factions were far more powerful, resourceful, and deadlier as enemies. Khan would let the big guys fight among themselves while he sits and comfortably watches the whole show while eating popcorn. Finally, even without directly wielding a weapon, he doomed the whole faction filled with saints who had godly strength and authority. And as for Victor, tap, tap, in a closed-off and heavily fortified room under Khan's castle, a trio of 3 people walked in. Khan, Jugram, and Armin entered this room filled with types of equipment made for torturing people. He took a seat on a wooden chair and looked at the chained man who had one horn coming out of his head. "Wakey, wakey, little devil," chimed Khan with a smile on his face. "Erg, you think this little suppression formation and these chains are enough to make me talk? You'll turn into dead meat soon, Salvatore," exclaimed Victor as he gave Khan a furious gaze. Khan, on the other hand, seemed unbothered and spoke. "Don't get your hopes up. As a matter of fact, I'm finally free to watch an entertaining show," he said, and then asked with an insidious grin. "So tell me, Victor, are you ready to repent?" 25 kilometers outside the capital Asir, on the night of the same day, a warship landed amidst a mountainous region filled with dense treelines and grasslands. Chak! The giant main door of this 200 meters tall and 400 meters wide massive warship opened and a group of people exited the ship. These were none other than Khan, Jugram, Armin, and the elite fighters amongst the Covenant soldiers. Xing, Kling, a demonkin who was tied with heavy mithril chains that also had multiple runes which stopped him from using his mana or aura. Soon, they stopped in an open ground while the soldiers brought a black and red wooden throne with comfortable cushions. "What the hell is this supposed to mean, Salvatore? Do you think you can secretly execute me and get away with it? Don't you know who I am or which faction I represent? The entire demi-human faction and my clan will cause a bloodbath in this shithole of a fiefdom of yours if you kill me," exclaimed Victor angrily as he shirked his hands away from a soldier who was holding the chains. "Arsh, this dimwit," spoke Khan in annoyance as he took a seat. "You still don't get it? You're no longer some heir of a clan or a young prodigy of a noble faction. You are a fugitive," he said, and looked down on chained Victor. "You're now the whistleblower in the eyes of the demi-human faction. Forget the faction. Even your own family won't protect you at this point. You have become a liability," smirked Khan with an elated expression. "There are 2 reasons why I spread the news that you escaped from my clutches. 1. If I did anything to you myself, it could have been turned to my disadvantage. Your faction or the clan would have come up with any reason in order to get custody over you. If I declined, they could say that I actually orchestrated that confession and wanted to silence you, or any random bullshit reason that people would eventually believe. Because if 1,000 people speak a lie together, it becomes the truth," revealed Khan. "And as things stand, instead of trying to protect you, it's more convenient for your faction to get rid of you. If you're dead, they can shift the entire blame on you. But if nobody knows where you are, the entire empire will think that your faction and clan are protecting you despite your crimes. So keeping you alive will do far more damage than killing you," he said. The next moment his tone turned grim. 2. Updated from didn't kill you because death will be a great mercy for a scumbag like you, who thinks that other people's lives don't matter since you come from a noble family and prestigious background. I bet you didn't even feel a sense of wrong or responsibility when you carried out the massacre. I'm certain you have no remorse for causing the deaths of those 20,000 innocent people who were only doing their job," he said while leaking his killing intent. "As the sovereign, I'm responsible to protect the people here. I know that I'm no saint and have blood on my hands as well. But what I absolutely hate is when someone innocent dies because of me. And to frame me, your faction killed so many people. Since I don't have the power and authority to go and kill that damn faction leader of yours, I'll at least make you pay for the crimes you've committed," said Khan with eyes full of bloodlust while his black and red aura froze the surrounding area. "So for all those deaths, you should pay a heavy price. There were 20,000 dead people. Let's see if you still want to live if your bones are broken for the same amount," declared Khan with a vengeful tone. He then looked at Jugram and Armin who came with him to this isolated region. Under Jugram's orders, all the soldiers returned to the warship and waited there. Boom! Khan, who sat on his throne with a grim expression, suddenly activated the dimensional domain skill, one of his trump card abilities. What the hell is this?" exclaimed Victor as he noticed the remaining strength in his body leaving, and even standing up took a great deal of effort for him. "Ah, I guess you didn't notice it back then since I cast it too quickly. This is my domain," spoke Khan casually. Victor, on the other hand, has a frightened expression as soon as he heard Khan's response. "Impossible! How can you have a domain? Only a 5th stage saint and above can create a domain of their own," exclaimed Victor hurriedly. "Oh, that's something I never heard of," spoke Khan as he learned about this key information for the first time. But instead of giving too much attention to this revelation, Khan looked at Jugram, who was clad in his new red armor and giant's sword made from the skin and bones of the legendary rank Invimarak monster. "Master, both of our strengths are now matched when I'm in my human form," spoke Jugram. "Human form what?" said Victor. But instead of clarifying, clang, Khan suddenly summoned a weapon and threw it toward Victor. This was actually Victor's scythe that they confiscated back when Khan and Jugram caught him. "You see, I'm a very benevolent man. I will give you one last chance if you want to save your life. Fight my general here in a life and death battle. If you manage to kill him, I'll let you go free. How does that sound?" asked Khan with a sinister voice. Spat. Victor spat on the ground while Jugram unchained him. The next moment, he took out Victor's repaired armor from his space ring. "Don't look down on me, you bastard. Last time I was defeated because you had trapped me. But this time, I'll kill him first and then I'll kill you later. Dare to bet?" scoffed Victor. Khan only nodded in return. This inwardly laughed at the clan heir of the Apopes clan who still hadn't grasped the situation. After Victor equipped his gear, he stood in front of Jugram. Both of them were now limited to a peak grandmaster under Khan's dimensional domain. Khan sat on the farthest end while Armin accompanied him. And finally he gave the command. "Begin the death match." In the middle of a dense forest, on an open ground, a heated battle began between two powerful fighters. Shockwaves and tremors filled the battlefield as a demonkin and a 3-meter-tall human clad in red armor fought in a death match. While the former was faster and more flexible because of his fighting style with a scythe, the latter was powerful and more perceptive of the battlefield as both entities fought. Clang! Clink! Sparks flew across the battlefield as Victor's scythe clashed against Jugram's new giant sword and was repelled after the clash. Swoosh! Victor's figure flickered and he evaded Jugram's vision. Shing! Just then, Jugram used the broadside of the sword and quickly plunged it into the ground on his right-hand side. Clang! Victor, who just appeared a second later in that same place, had already swung his scythe in order to take off Jugram's right arm, and both of their weapons clashed. Nonsense! It hasn't even been a minute and he can already predict my next attack. Even for a human who is under 40, he is far more experienced, thought the demonkin. As soon as their battle started, Jugram went into a defensive mode and allowed Victor to attack. But in just a minute, he was already predicting Victor's next location based on the latter's footwork like a true veteran. Khan, who was seated on his throne, chuckled as if this was something bound to him. This fool doesn't even know who he's fighting. Although Cyril and Omega are the most relentless among my forces when it comes to training their skills and abilities, no one has ever been able to surpass Jugram when it comes to adapting to the battlefield and his opponent. He's the fastest and most efficient one to find flaws in his enemies and their techniques. Thought Khan. All the generals and Omega had inherited a part of Khan's personality in their own way, and Jugram was the one who inherited Khan's quick wit and adaptability to completely turn the tide in a battle. Like a simulation running inside his head, Jugram only needed a few exchanges to gauge the opponent's skills and their strength. And now that the battlefield was even under Khan's dimensional domain, which brought Victor's strength on the same level as Jugram, it was more about the real experience on a battlefield. Compared to Victor, Jugram had more real-life battle experience than the enemy because unlike the Demonkin who only trained under the care of his clan and factions, Jugram on the other end fought every battle in a do-or-die situation. Even Khan considered him as the one-man army because Jugram had the skills and mindset to even fight a couple of thousand enemies regardless of their strengths and numbers. His previous battle against the Frost Giants when Khan went to the north was already a testament to how great of a battle-hard warrior Jugram was. In a way, the match was already fixed and Victor didn't even know it. As for the main reason why he said that he'd let Victor go, he didn't intend to let Victor go with his sanity intact after what he did. First, he wanted to psychologically break Victor, who thought that he was above other people and their lives didn't matter because they came from a poor background or part of the society. Physical pain was already due, but Khan wanted to make this bastard realize how little did his heritage, his clan and the so-called fake prestige mattered in the end when no one was coming to save him. And as the battle continued while Victor used skills after skills by infusing his man with his scythe attacks and created a few dozen copies of the weapon using his aura, Jugram successfully defended against them from time to time, and after 10 minutes passed, he finally used his power boost skills such as Inferno Domain and Demon's Rage skill to overpower the opponent. And in just 15 minutes, the once presumed to be the most strongest prodigy of the Rakos Empire was reduced to a punching bag by the Hell Berserker general. "Arr!" wailed Victor as Jugram kicked Victor and broke his left shin with a single kick, and he dislocated Victor's right shoulder with a single punch. At this point, he wasn't even using his giant's word but only his bare fists. And with his epic rank weapon that was shattered in half by Jugram out of the equation, Victor couldn't even properly defend himself and charged like an idiot in front of his enemy. TCH. Such a disappointment. He doesn't even know any other fighting techniques other than his scythe skills. Hasn't he heard the saying? A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Spoke Khan as he enjoyed a glass of wine while Victor screamed in pain. "Go heal him. We are going to take time on this one," ordered Khan to Armin. Armin healed Victor's shattered bones instantly now that he was a legendary rank being and had plenty of SSS rank healing skills. Keep shattering his bones while Armin keeps healing him instantly. "No! Stop!" pleaded Victor, but Jugram shattered his wrist and all the bones in the hand under his feet. Soon, a vicious cycle of Jugram breaking bones after bones in Victor's body repeated while Armin kept healing him without even breaking a sweat. Khan had already left a doppelganger in his castle who was Khan himself and shared the affairs as the sovereign of the fiefdom through the telepathy link. So all he did in the meantime was to watch Victor suffer while he himself was counting the number of broken bones. 2 days later, Khan had been having a great time as he saw Jugram break Victor's pride, till the point the semi-saint started to beg to let him live. And finally, a figure of this once overly prideful demonkin with hopeless eyes lay on the ground as Jugram ripped apart his left arm. And that is number 20,000. Hooray! Congratulations, Victor. You've survived the punishment. Spoke Khan with a charming smile as he clapped excitedly. Meanwhile, Victor couldn't even scream in agony at this point. Please. J. Ustemp. Ki. Me. spoke Victor, who was completely broken at this point. He had suffered an immeasurable amount of torture and heart-wrenching pain in the past 2 days at the hands of Khan's executioner, aka Jugram. My. Did you really think I'd let you die so easily? If you want a swift death, you should offer me something compelling. After all, you're more worth alive to me than dead, spoke Khan in a casual tone. What do you want? Asked Victor. Isn't it obvious? Said Khan and revealed his terms. The real truth. Khan looked Victor straight in the eyes and asked the real reason behind the whole outrageous act of the demi-human faction by massacring thousands of soldiers. Although their main intention was just to get him publicly defamed and overthrow his rule, Khan had many suspicions of his own, because the faction filled with millions of people and saints who lived for more than a century acted impatiently. By no means did he believe that a faction full of wise and cunning people would act so suddenly without foolproof and extensive planning first. But they still ended up making the mistake as if there was a time margin they had to meet, because even the smartest people make mistakes when they're desperate. This was the main reason why Khan believed that what he found out before capturing Victor was only a half-truth. That there was more than met the eye. Victor, who was mentally broken at this moment after going through the soul-shivering experience of having all of his bones broken and flesh squashed over and over again for the past 2 days, had an aghast expression. Despite going through all that torment, he still didn't think that Khan could actually see through and ask for the second reason. How did you know? He asked as he panted heavily. You should know better that I didn't become who I am today without using my brain. Well, I don't have time. Tell me now or this torture will continue, and forget about it stopping anytime soon, replied Khan as he gave a final intimation. Victor, on the other end, had an ashen expression as soon as he heard Khan's warning. At this point, he wasn't worried about dying but suffering through that cycle of immeasurable pain again and again, because each time, he was losing his sanity and wanted this torture to end. To keep you busy, spoke Victor as he had bare minimum strength just to speak. What? Asked Khan with a befuddled expression. Our demi-human faction wanted to not only take over Verlassen but also keep you busy so that you couldn't visit that place, which will be opened in 2 months from now, revealed Victor, so that we have fewer candidates entering that zone. That way I would have the chance to complete the task. The lesser, the better, he iterated. After this incident, the faction had planned to summon you to the capital and convict you under false charges in order to keep you busy till the time limit finished, explained the demonkin. Shock. Khan had nothing but a perplexed countenance as Victor revealed the other side of the truth. What the hell? This doesn't make any sense, Khan thought as he could swallow this new revelation. Just for that, your faction didn't mind having 20,000 people getting killed? What exactly is in that place? He asked. Victor spoke with a fatigued expression. Even I don't know the complete truth. All I know is that it had something to do with the imperial family, and this invisible barrier that stops the saints from entering this fiefdom is actually just an outer layer. My father once told me that the primary and stronger barriers are inside that zone, protecting something that's not allowed to be spoken about. Only the 3 faction leaders and the clan leaders of the main 3 clans of respective factions know the truth, he said. But isn't your clan one of the 3 top clans of the demi-human faction? Asked Khan. Yes, but after you defeated me in the Emperor's chosen competition, I lost the right to know the hidden truth, spoke Victor as his figure slouched in defeat. What the hell is so important that they went as far as setting up the whole competition just to get an advantage to select a fiefdom of their choosing? And now even massacred thousands of innocent people just to stop me from entering? Are they certain that somehow I will complete the said task? Thought Khan. Other than the history of the previous hero of lightning dying there, I don't know anything about that area. Even that Alistair as well as Ismatrazal only gave me vague information, and the Pureblood faction hasn't given me proper details about exactly what I have to do there even at this point. The more I see it, the more complicated things are being revealed, he concluded. Victor then got on his knees in a pleading position and spoke. Look, I've told you everything I know, so please, just kill me. I can't go through it anymore. His defeated and hoarse voice resounded inside the 1-kilometer radius of Khan's dimensional domain. From the outside, this massive black dome-like domain barrier sized only 200 meters, but this skill that came with his dimensional law divine ability was 5 times bigger from the inside. And now, Khan decided that it was time he stopped playing the torture game. "Well, your fate lies in not my hands but his," said Khan as he pointed his forefinger towards the Berserker general in red armor. A shiver ran under Victor's spine as he looked at Jugram again. It was this very man who had been torturing him without a break for the past 2 days. Even his face looked that of a grim reaper to Victor now. "I want to continue this, but you have something that I desperately want," spoke Jugram as he flexed his arms and neck. "What?" asked Victor with a puzzled expression. "Your bloodline," he said. "What do you mean?" asked Victor with a confused expression. "Bloodline isn't something that can be acquired just from someone's body," he said. But before he could ask any questions, boom! A loud shockwave full of fire and a chaotic aura suddenly erupted. Bang! Thud! Victor's body was thrown 20 meters away from the shockwaves. And finally, beside Khan and Armin, a massive 12-meter-tall figure of a monstrous humanoid creature whose body was filled with bone-like armor over his shoulders, arms and legs, while the rest of the body had black and red flesh as if a never-ending blistering heat ran under the flesh. The temperature of the surroundings suddenly rose by at least 10 degrees as Jugram finally took his real Chaos Demon form. Thud! Thud! Victor was rooted on the spot, completely bewildered and out of wits as he suddenly saw this demonic creature appearing out of nowhere. "What the hell are you? How come a monster like this is here?" he exclaimed in fear. He then looked at Khan and Armin, both of whom did not seem surprised at all. "Who are you? This shouldn't even be possible," he asked in a jittery voice as his entire body shivered under Jugram's terrifying aura. Khan gleefully replied, "I'm just your friendly neighborhood hero of darkness," he said and took a sip of wine. Shocked, Victor was completely bewildered. "A hero you're one of them," shouted Victor as he finally came to a realization. Although in Rocco's empire, news and knowledge about gods, their churches, and even the chosen heroes were forbidden, the top brass knew of their existence. Only now did he realize that Khan wasn't someone without a background. Rather, he was not from this world from the beginning. He was one of the rumored heroes that even Victor thought of as nothing but myths. And these so-called heroes only existed in other empires but were never found in Rocco's since the time of its founding. And Victor had made an enemy out of the biggest misfortunes of this world. Among the 3 noble factions and their younger generation, he was seen as a prodigy. But in front of Khan, Victor realized that he wasn't even a stepping stone. "Impossible. This is not possible," Victor spoke to himself as he tried to deny the reality in front of him. Thud! Thud! Jugram's loud steps resounded as the giant Hell Berserker kept looking at puny semi-saint Demonkin, who was no different than a defenseless newborn in front of him. A stream of tears dropped from Victor's eyes as he came to accept his fate, no longer having even the slightest will to live or put up any resistance. "Be proud of yourself. Even without knowing, you have proved yourself useful to my master," said Jugram in a domineering and grim voice. And instead of giving the half-breed Demonkin a chance to respond, step, crack, Jugram stepped on Victor's chest and crushed his entire torso under his massive feet. Splurt! Like a squashed tomato, blood and intensities spread on the soiled ground and Jugram lifted his feet. He looked down on the tiny opponent. Half of Victor's body was turned into meat paste and only a head with a horrified expression came into his sight. Using his blood-controlling skill, he pulled up the gray core of the semi-saint Victor Apopes. Thud! Thud! He walked back and kneeled in front of Khan as he presented him with Victor's core. But instead, Khan got up from his throne and walked toward Victor's corpse, and placed his hands on the bleeding and mangled corpse. Absorb! He spent a few hours absorbing Victor's skills and bloodlines. But when it came to the semi-saint's core, he looked at Jugram who had reverted to his human form. "Although it looks very compelling, I can't level up again until my soul is completely healed. Besides, said Khan as he gave a content smile to the general, this will benefit you more than me. In the middle of the open ground inside this forested region, Khan began the synthesis procedure and both Jugram and Victor's bodies were covered under a pitch-black shadow. System, show me the new abilities, ordered Khan. Congratulations to the host for acquiring the following abilities vs skills. Scythe Blade Barrage SS rank, active. Allows the host to make consecutive attacks made of scythe blades using mana and aura. Demon's Aura, SS rank, active. Allows the host to exude a demonic suppressive aura to put all enemies within 1 kilometer range in a fearful state. Congratulations to the host. This ability has been merged under War Dominance Blessing. War Dominance has reached stage 5. Scythe Shredder, SS rank, active. Allows the host to create a 50-meter wide storm of Aura Bladestorm filled with scythe-shaped weapons. Any target of this attack will receive multiple lacerations and bleeding effects. True Demon Transformation, SSS rank. Allows the host to temporarily turn into a true demon for 30 minutes. In this form, all the physical stats and elemental attributes are increased by 3 times. Note: the host will be in a weakened state for 2 days after the activation time ends. True Demon Bloodline Absorbed. Bloodline Purity, 46%. Note: the host is advised to find higher-grade specimens and absorb more bloodline to improve the buff effects of the Azura mode. There are currently no abilities or skills that can be merged with the newly gained ones. Reported system. Good. At least he was somewhat good. Even though he wasn't a veteran like Commander Aswala, he still had decent skills. Spoke Khan with a content expression, because after a long time, War Dominance was upgraded and the True Demon Transformation seemed to be a good skill with a lot of potential that he could use in the future without relying on Berserk God mode. Currently, it had too much recuperating period that his blessing that was given by the war deity. But the potential was hard to ignore. And as the system informed, gaining more True Demon Bloodline would help his Azura mode in order to get additional stats and attack buffs. So Victor had indeed offered something unique to Khan. 6 hours later. The night had fallen already and the Synthesis Divine ability finally finished its work and the system notified Khan. But as soon as the notification ended, Khan felt a dreary aura and his entire body froze under a horrifying and chaotic aura. Armin, ordered Khan. Armin, who was at legendary rank and could stand under this pressure without getting affected, cast a protection barrier over both their bodies. Crack! Crack! But suddenly, the ground cracked open and a massive burst of hellfire arose. Boom! As if an active volcano erupted, an ear-deafening noise filled the 2 kilometers region, while this enormous pillar of fire rose high in the night and lit up the dark forest like a gigantic torch. Thud! Shatter! The cracked ground trembled and earthquakes filled the 2-kilometer radius. Khan and Armin already stood 2 kilometers away from this massive crevice that engulfed the ground they previously stood on. Bang! And out of the ground that was literally on fire, 2 massive burning red claws ascended. Dang! Crack! 2 enormous horns on fire, a massive demonic face with red eyes, ripped and muscular arms that had an exterior layer like a bony armor came to be. Boom! Another loud noise filled the region as hundreds of burning boulders were launched in the air through this 200-meter-wide crevice. Everywhere these fiery boulders fell, the trees and grass quickly caught fire which soon spread across their surrounding treelines. Thud! Thud! 2 massive feet landed on the ground as an enormous figure jumped out of this pit of fire and magma. Rhea Auror! A loud roar that sent shockwaves and sonic booms in the 3 kilometers radius resounded as if a terrifying monster arose from the pits of hell. The entire plant life, trees, and grasslands in the 2-kilometer radius area started burning because of the extensive heat that arose from this hell creature. Khan was flabbergasted on the spot as well, because in front of him stood a 500 meters tall and 200 meters wide demonic creature whose entire body was covered in black bone-like armor over the shoulders, arms, chest, legs and the back, while the rest was nothing but fire running underneath its skin. Jugram in his new form looked like an ancient demonic being that shouldn't have been released from hell. "Bloody hell," spoke Khan. "System, give me the report." He commanded. "Congratulations to the host. The subordinate Jugram has invoked a legendary class. The subordinate has evolved into a variant legendary rank creature. Following are the statistics and abilities. Name Jugram. Species: Diablos, variant superior chaos demon. Job: Hellblazer, legendary rank. Rank: legendary rank. Level: 240. Strength: 19,460. Agility: 15,942. Dexterity: 12,693. Defense: 10,489. Mana: 6,863. Following are the newly gained abilities and skills. King of Fire, Saint rank. Passive: the subordinate is now immune to all types of fire attribute attacks and will absorb such spells and attacks in order to turn them into his physical attributes and increase his stats. The maximum rise in stats can be up to 500%. Marauder King, SSS rank. Wrath of Vajra, SSS rank. Following are the upgraded abilities VA skills. Frenzy Berserker, SSS rank. Active: the subordinate can enter a frenzied state for 40 minutes during which the strength and defense stats will be raised by 300% while the attack damage will increase by 600%. Note: the duration and boost in this ability can be raised with the increase in levels and rank. Rage Demon, SSS rank. Active: the subordinate will enter a rage mode where all of his physical and magical skills will be multiplied by 800% for 15 minutes. Note: the subordinate will enter a weakened state for 2 hours after this ability is deactivated. While the system carried out the list of abilities, Khan's eyes were wide open while his jaw dropped on the ground as he listened to the list of the remaining abilities and skills. Khan, who was both terrified and also exhilarated at the same time, shouted, "Holy Mother of Satan!" Khan had plenty of complicated expressions at this moment, because he didn't expect this new transformation to come out as the result of synthesis divine ability at all. At best, he hoped to see Jugram become a legendary rank creature with barely meeting the mark. And even his legendary rank form was expected to be double his size or similar to Cyril or Armin's size at most. But the final result was far superior. And the only thing he could point his fingers at was the true demon bloodline. Because to cause such a drastic transformation, they needed a very superior bloodline just like Rudra, Blackwell and Oliver now possessed. So far, Khan barely had any idea about this bloodline because it was extremely rare even in Rocco's empire. And he had no detailed knowledge about its heritage either. Finally, after a minute, he calmed his mind and continued going through the list. The skill named Inferno Domain has ranked up and evolved into a new ability. Hell Domain, Saint rank. Active: the subordinate can create a 5 kilometers wide battlefield filled with hellfire. All the enemies in this field will have their strength and defense reduced by 75%. Note: the effective range of this ability will increase with the increase in levels and rank. Bloodstorm, SSS rank. Passive: the subordinate can drain out the blood from dead beings during a battle and use it as a high-pressure bloodstorm for 2 kilometers. The subordinate can create any form of weapons using the blood by mixing his aura and world energy. Chaos Emperor, Saint rank. Passive: the more enemies the subordinate kills and their blood is absorbed by him in a 5-kilometer radius, the more strength, defense, and attack buff will be gained by the subordinate over time. Note: the effective range and the buff received will increase with the rise in levels and rank. The maximum buff that can be received is 900%. Hellblazer legendary rank class effects. The subordinate has now become an entity of hell. The temperature of the surrounding 5 kilometers will be raised to 500 degrees Celsius when the subordinate is in his true form. Only the host and fellow subordinates will be immune to this blistering heat. The defensive properties of all the armors, weapons, and artifacts from the enemy side will be decreased by 50%. Under the influence of the Hell domain, unless the weapons and armors contain ice attributes and elemental properties, they will start melting after a few minutes. The lower the quality of material and heat resistance, the faster they will melt. The same applies to enemies and species with less heat resistance in their bodies. In other words, the subordinate named Jugram can simply roast his enemies alive and melt their equipment just by bringing them inside his Hell domain. Bloodline True Demon. Current bloodline purity, 57%. Note: the host is advised to merge more fire elemental creatures and specimens with a higher purity of the true demon bloodline with the general named Jugram. Reported the system. Khan was left speechless again, because the more he saw it, the more obvious fact came to his realization that Jugram himself became a natural disaster. He was like a walking, talking personification of hell, and any enemy of his was bound to be burnt alive before they even touched him. King of Fire skill was already like a cheat code that made him immune to all fire elemental attacks and skills, whether they were physical or magical. Hell domain was literally his own battlefield, just like how Khan had dimensional domain skill. And the terrain inside this 5-kilometer wide domain was only advantageous to Jugram, because the temperature inside this domain would reach 500 degrees Celsius. A temperature not many would be able to withstand, because even a peak grandmaster would barely be able to protect themselves using all of their aura and mana for 10 minutes at best. As for a semi-saint, they'd have 30 minutes, and a saint of the same rank who had access to world energy, they'd be able to endure it for an hour and a half at best. But anyone below these, well, there would feel like standing in a fiery pit inside this domain where even the air was trying to burn them alive. And given the 5 kilometers radius range, if Jugram revealed his true form on a battlefield, forget 10,000, even 100,000 soldiers would fall in a dozen minutes. Plus Chaos Emperor skill gave Jugram an unbelievable boost in strength, defense stats along with an attack buff up to 900%, making him 9 times stronger at his peak. Made him able to fight a second stage saint on even grounds given the difference in the strength with every rising stage. On top of it, if they fought inside his Hell domain, even defeating such an opponent wouldn't become a hassle, as the enemy's stats and physical attributes would be reduced by 75%, as well as all of their armors and weapons would lose 50% of their inbuilt durability. In simple words, Jugram in his peak after using all of his skills was already on par with a 3rd stage saint rank being. If Khan ever sent Jugram against an enemy force, millions will fall and nothing but a burning battlefield would remain in his wake. It was like releasing a demon lord on weak enemies. Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Laughed Khan hysterically as small tears of joy dropped from his eyes. In terms of strength and attack buffs, Jugram was the strongest among them all. He even surpassed Blackwell, who was a being called Kronos, a variant primordial titan. And he was 2nd strongest amongst in defense after Blackwell. Even my generals are comparable to strong saints who are 2 to 3 levels above me in stages. No way would my progression in strength be like those cliché novels where you go step by step and only fight strong guys just 1 level above you. Reveled Khan and rejoiced in the fact that his generals, who were no different than saint-rank bodyguards at this point, would become his biggest aces like this. So far he had Rudra, Blackwell, Armin, Cyril, Oliver, and now Jugram, who were comparable to at least a 2nd stage and could even fight a 3rd stage saint when they went all out. Hell, I have 6 of them who can get rid of stronger opponents for me. And if I use all of them together in a battle. Muhahaha! Laughed Khan like a maniac as an evil grin came on his face. I already feel sorry for my enemies. 1 month later, the incident regarding the massacre had finally started to calm down. But the past month brought many major changes in the power structure of the Rakos Empire. Even now, no one had heard anything about Victor and his allies who carried out the massacre in the Barawa region. After the proper burial and when the public attention shifted from the gravesite, Khan created 10,000 more subordinates using the fallen soldiers in secret as he did in the Caldrus region last time. But even now, no one knew why Khan was doing it. The demi-human faction, on the other hand, was half of what it was in the past after a month of public condemnation, political espionage, and power struggles with the pureblood faction via the neutral faction. Both of them took the advantage of the situation to the fullest and forced through rumors and fake evidence. They indicted many of the important and powerful people from this faction who held influential positions in the government. And now, with both factions joining their hands together, the demi-human faction that was already going through an internal war after the incident of the massacre was revealed to the core members, it became an easy target for the former two factions. Many saints who were part of their faction, as well as their clans, left the demi-human faction, because their top leaders and the faction leader himself had committed a taboo. And if they tried to show their loyalty, they'd lose all the power, influence, and authority they held in their respective region. Many used the excuse that they didn't know the plans of top leaders and faction leader themselves, so they had no part to play in it. While using words such as they would never stoop so low to massacre their own countrymen and soldiers for some benefit, many of them broke off their relations with the faction that was once very hard to get in. Because anyone who was even remotely connected to this faction was being shunned by the public. And no matter how powerful one was, if they couldn't even make a living or run any businesses because the customers and the workers had refused to partake in the exchange, their power and wealth were bound to fall. Most of the powerful and prestigious clans either joined other two factions or created small factions of their own, because there was no true loyalty in this world since the beginning. And without their support and authority in their respective regions of the empire, the demi-human faction had only half of its people and saints left after a month. Those who stayed were either extremist with their beliefs or some were just waiting out to see where the future of this faction was headed, and they'd make their decisions later after assessing the situation. Because even if they joined the other two factions, they won't have that much influence or feel included in decision-making either. Those with the most to lose had no choice but to stick around and find a way out. But given the current situation, even a random person on the street could tell that the demi-human faction was doomed. On top of it, Victor and his fellow perpetrators were never found by anyone. No one had expected that it was Khan who actually had them imprisoned after his moving and wrathful speech. Even the investigation teams sent by the central government from the capital filled with 10 semi-saints couldn't find anything about their whereabouts. Khan on the other end gave them his full support, but both of them never succeeded, and everyone could only point their fingers at the faction in the question. Meanwhile, the top leaders of the faction had refused to admit their faults, saying that it was Victor who did everything and used their name to command the people to carry out the massacre. But even though none of them could be arrested due to lack of evidence, there was no proof they could offer about Victor doing the whole thing by his own will either. Any evidence was bound to get tested by the other two officials belonging to be enemy factions, so they could no longer create a fake trail that solidified their innocence. And since they were careful to not leave any traces or evidence between them and Victor during the massacre, they couldn't use it to twist the narrative either. But instead of resolving this situation, it ended up becoming beneficial to their enemies. So the pureblood Va neutral faction used this news to spread more rumors that the demi-human faction was still hiding Victor and the others who played a part in the massacre, that they did not even want to admit their wrongs. After this final nail in the coffin, the damage done was simply immeasurable, and as things stood, the 100-years-old demi-human faction barely had resources and influence left to survive a decade. Many of their members and clans were leaving the faction and forces with each passing day. Meanwhile, by torturing those who came with Victor, Khan had found out and imprisoned all the spies planted inside his fiefdom by the demi-human faction. He got rid of everyone in secret after the Covenant soldiers arrested them in the name of investigation. This was also a warning to other factions as well, that if they too tried to pull such a stunt, he'd take the same measures. In their eyes, Khan was no longer a little cub but a full-grown tiger who would hunt down those who entered his territory. As for public opinion, Khan's name as a sovereign and a righteous leader was spread across the whole empire. Even if someone didn't belong to the Verlassen fiefdom, they had a very good impression of Khan and his rule. On the first day of the new month, Khan received a message from the capital. That very evening, an envoy from his allied force came via a warship and Khan welcomed them as he sat on his throne. a young man who had a slim-looking figure with red eyes and shoulder-length silver hair, donned in white and yellow attire of a certain prestigious clan of the Empire, appeared in front of Khan. Behind this man was a young swordsmaiden with the same physical characteristics. "Long time no see." Khan then gladly welcomed this young man who had a good relationship with him ever since he went to the capital Rathna. Sale. In front of Khan stood Sale Mor Vandereyck, the clan heir of the most prestigious and leading clan of the pureblood faction. It had been nearly 7 months since Khan last met Sale in the capital Rathna before the Emperor's Chosen competition started. And behind him was Vivian Mor Vandereyck, his elder stepsister who once conspired to kill the vampire heir, and also Khan for thwarting their plans. After Sale's death, Vivian was supposed to become the only heir of her clan and then succeed her father and become the clan leader in the upcoming future. She had the support of clan council members who were unhappy with her grandfather father's leadership because they too were not extremists and didn't share the doctrine of vampires ruling over the empire and achieving supremacy. Rather, they wanted to maintain balance and ensure their species and their clan's survival because there was a time that they nearly went extinct in the Rocco's empire because of the rampant bloodbath caused by those who shared such supremacist beliefs 400 years ago. But because of Khan, all of their plans turned to failure. And later, her father, Ismatrazil Mor Vandereyck, used Khan as bait to find the traitors in their clan and the entire pureblood faction. Khan had learned quite a few harsh lessons because of his involvement with the Vandereyck clan, but after he won the Emperor's Chosen competition, he had cut off all ties with the pureblood faction. If not for the bloodbind contract he made with Alistair Mor Vandereyck, the faction leader of the pureblood faction who was also Sale Vivian's grandfather, he'd still be at odds with them. However, his relationship with Sale was never affected since both of them were used as chess pieces by the faction regardless of their origin. Khan even had a hearty talk with Sale when he invited the latter for a dinner in his Wayne manor. And both of them decided that night that they'd never be used by others again. On the same night, Sale also reached a resolution that he'd no longer stay as a spoiled rich brat but gain strength to the point where no one would treat him as a sacrificial lamb. The last time they met was when Sale gave Khan the recommendation token that was sent by his father. And now, he appeared in front of Khan with a confident demeanor. After Khan gestured with his right hand, the vampire heir sat on the closest one of the luxurious chairs on the right side. And behind him stood Vivian, who was clad in their clan's signature armor like a professional bodyguard. She had gone through the core-binding ritual as the punishment for betraying the clan and the faction, which now made her a slave to Sale, and her life was tied to his own. A cruel fate that was delivered by her own grandfather for betraying their clan and joining hands with the demi-human faction back then. Khan noticed that Vivian's eyes were now more lifeless than before. If not for her breathing movements, she'd look nothing but a statue to the onlookers. "Congratulations," said Khan as he noticed a change about Sale. "Thank you," spoke Sale and slightly bowed his head. "So how does it feel after breaking through the Grandmaster rank after 2 decades of delay?" asked Khan. "I'm more surprised than you are. I guess there was some sort of psychological barrier that never allowed me to become a Grandmaster. If not for the whole incident with us back then, I wouldn't have been able to surpass my limits. I think my own will to become stronger played a part in it," he said. "Well, good that now you're keen on becoming powerful for your own sake than doing it out of obligation," said Khan and gave a gentle smile. After being looked down on and even conspired against by the people who practically raised him, Sale had seen the reality of how even your flesh and blood will kill you for power and authority. And now, he craved it not to live up to someone's expectations or any obligation as the clan heir, but for his ambitions and inner hunger for strength. After an hour of chat and catching up with their current lives and circumstances, Sale finally got to the task. "Here's the reason why I came here," spoke Sale, and the next moment, an intrinsically patterned golden envelope came out of his space ring. Ronan suddenly appeared out of thin air and took the letter. Khan opened the letter and read its context. But there was an expression of a surprise after he was finished. The letter included, "There is only 1 month left. You need to start preparing. Sale will give you a map. Use it to reach the entrance of that region. The others have already started preparing and everyone has only 10 days window to enter and exit. Otherwise, you will be stuck in that place till your last moments. The map will only help in entering the final barrier. As for what's inside or what you need to do to accomplish the task, is all up to you. Khan was relieved to finally get the gist of the deal. Previously, all he was told was that he needed to enter a particular region of the empire where only a semi-saint under the age of 50 could enter. And those who entered once and came back could never enter there again. On top of it, there were no records of what lay inside. So all the factions were looking for the strongest semi-saints of the younger generation with fighting capabilities. This was also the reason why Khan agreed to do the job. Because the rewards he demanded were simply too amazing and would save Khan years of hard work and unnecessary trouble. Khan then received the map from Sale and continued reading. The map has the structure of the inner 2 layers of the Forbidden Region. And your main task is to search and retrieve the... Khan then read the last line of the letter with a befuddled expression. Tablet of Arcana. After Khan read through the letter, he ordered Ronan to guide Sale and his envoy to their designated accommodations. At the time of the night, he stood on the balcony of his royal bedroom and gazed at the bright moons that made the night seem tranquil at the same time. As for Khan, he had many things to think about after he received the letter and the map of the Forbidden Zone. Although he found out the main reason why the Pureblood faction and the neutral faction desperately wanted to recruit him back in the day, many things still eluded his understanding. Tablet of Arcana. Khan had no idea about what the hell it was. The only thing he could make out of it was the shape based on its name. Even the name itself added another layer of mystery to it, absolutely revealing nothing about the history behind it. But based on what he heard from Victor, this forbidden zone that was at the foremost end of Verlassen fiefdom and existed at an intersection of 3 different regions, had something to do with the imperial family that was massacred 100 years ago. And now, Alistair Moore Vandereyck, one of the 3 strongest individuals in the entire Rocco's Empire, wanted Khan to retrieve this Tablet of Arcana thing as part of the deal he made 7 months ago. Whatever this Tablet of Arcana thing is, it seems invaluable to the point where all 3 noble factions wouldn't even mind going as far as killing thousands of innocents and even rigging the Emperor's chosen competition. Who knows what kind of things they've done in order to get that thing in the past century. But I don't understand why have they failed to acquire it even after 100 years? Either it's something that even a semi-saint can't handle or there must some sort of condition which all the semi-saints that entered that zone failed to meet. Thought Khan as he collected the basic information he had gathered till this point. Because there must be a reason why no one succeeded even now. And that reason could explain why things were set in motion even before he participated in the Emperor's chosen competition and got entangled in this crusade without even knowing. If Khan hadn't shown his prowess during the competition, he would have probably never even met the top brasses of the top 3 factions. No, even if I didn't participate in the competition, Ismatrazal already knew about my rank and fighting capability. He would have gotten me involved in this regardless of the outcome of the competition. And if I didn't win the competition and become the sovereign of Verlassen fiefdom, maybe those vampires would have forced me or even made me a vampire or turned into their slave through that ritual mentioned by Stronov Michelson. Spoke Khan to himself as he came to another realization. If he hadn't become the Emperor's chosen, he'd probably be at the Vandereyck clan's mercy or would have been turned into their puppet. Khan heaved a sigh and took a deep breath. He just realized that by choosing the sovereign storyline route, he actually evaded an invisible bullet that would have killed him for sure. And if I'm not wrong, the dome around the fiefdom was created 200 years ago. And the previous hero of lightning also died in that place at the same time. There must be a correlation. Something that was hidden by both the imperial family and even the new government that came into existence a century ago. Another hypothesis hit his brain as Khan finally felt the connection between these 2 things. Plus the Great War and the coup d'état against the imperial family. Why do I feel like they're also connected to this Tablet of Arcana? Thought Khan. What great treasure was this Tablet of Arcana that had such chaotic history, and who knew how many dead bodies and blood that was spilled to get it? Khan wasn't a fool to blindly believe whatever was told to him. But based on the current situation, he had no idea what the hell was happening either or what secrets were buried. His mind was completely discombobulated after trying to connect all the dots. Thinking that he had all of it figured out just by making some assumptions would be a great mistake. This was something that he'd only find out after actually going into that forbidden zone when the time came. The next morning, Sale, Khan, and Albestros had breakfast together and shared a lot of happenings. Each of them went through and reminisced about the old times when things seemed easier. While Khan and Albestros had struggles of their own in the Verlassen fiefdom, Sale was getting dragged into the power struggle and politics of the pureblood faction now that he was the sole heir of the Vanderite clan. And finally, Khan bid farewell to this old friend in the afternoon. He had no idea when he'd meet this vampire heir again, but he was also happy to see that Sale was becoming his own man and breaking through the mental shackles he suffered from for the past 2 decades. At the time of the evening, Khan was finally done with his duties, approving the tasks and affairs related to the fiefdom, and finally took a breather. But just then, Khan's mind suddenly went haywire and his head felt like it was hijacked by something else. But before he could ask the system anything about the matter, he returned to his previous normal state in a matter of seconds. What the hell was that? Thought Khan. Suddenly, Khan felt a familiar presence. But what caught his attention was that he could feel this presence that entered the Verlassen fiefdom from thousands of kilometers afar. Ding! Ding! Khan then received a personal message from Ronan. And as the night came, he used one of his warships and traveled to a city on the farthest northern end of the capital Asir. He then entered a massive mansion located outside the borders of this city and finally met the person who invited him for this meeting in the night. On the top floor of the mansion was a broad bedroom which was somehow the meeting spot chosen by the one who sent the message via Ronan. Khan looked at the enchanting woman with peerless beauty standing in front of him. Step, step. She slowly walked towards Khan and without even greeting him, she gently placed her head against his chest as she wrapped her arms around him. System, what the hell is happening? Didn't you say none of us will be affected? Asked Khan. Then his gaze shifted to this beautiful woman who was suddenly acting out of character. What's the meaning of this? He looked her right in the eyes and spoke her name. Cassandra. Khan stood rooted on the spot as the Raven sorceress suddenly hugged him out of the blue and said that she missed him right after her reappearance in Verlassen fiefdom after more than a month. He is not able to make sense of what was happening at this moment at all. Just this evening after, Ronan received the message from Cassandra, the heiress of the Michelson clan who very recently saved Khan's life instead of protecting her own. Khan, on the other end, sacrificed a portion of his soul to repay this life debt to ensure her survival despite the cost both of them had to pay. Cassandra told Ronan to set up an urgent meeting only between herself and Khan, so the rogue general informed his master about it. Hence, Khan came at night while avoiding the public eye or bringing any of his generals together. This mansion was currently occupied only by Khan and Cassandra. There weren't even normal guards on the gates of this mansion, as if Cassandra wanted to maintain utmost secrecy. Yet Khan spread his assassins and many magician subordinates in the 5 kilometers vicinity just to check if there was any sort of magic formation or trap he failed to sense. But surprisingly, there was no hidden formation or any force trying to ambush Khan either. Cassandra, who was in violet attire that made her look like a princess, or even a queen of an empire based on appearance alone, suddenly hugged him. Because of which, he was taken aback by this sudden change in Cassandra's behavior. "I've missed you," spoke Cassandra after Khan asked her the meaning of her actions. There was no malice or any hidden motive that Khan could sense from her expression either. Even her eyes had nothing but warmth in them. System, check if it's because of the soul link. Could it have affected her mind in any way? This is so not like her, thought Khan. System detects that neither the host nor the individual named Cassandra Michelson is under any influence because of the soul link. Reported the system. Damn, I should have brought Armin with me. Maybe he'd be able to detect something. He thought. Khan hid the surprise on his face while he tried to read Cassandra and the situation around them. There was no one present in the 5-kilometer radius. No formation, no barrier, and not even a recording artifact. Yet Cassandra was acting strange and suspicious for some reason. All right, this is completely unexpected, said Khan, and he gently grabbed her arms and slowly created some space between them. I'm sorry if I startled you. I should have talked with you personally before I invited you here, said Cassandra with a light smile on her face. Why did you call me here? Asked Khan with a curious countenance. The truth is, I have, spoke Cassandra, but she suddenly started stuttering. I have been thinking about you ever since I left for Lassen, and after thinking about it over the past month, I've come to realize that she said and continued as her pleasant voice landed on Khan's ears. I like you. I like you very much. And I couldn't wait any more to tell you my true feelings, confessed Cassandra with gleaming eyes. Khan, on the other end, was neither baffled nor surprised. Instead, a different memory was running in his head at this moment. Khan remembered the situation and air around Cassandra the last time they met and had a walk together in his castle's main garden. Cassandra back then was a prideful, firm and strong woman, regardless of the injury she was recovering from or the pain of losing Isaac, her cousin who was like a younger brother to her. Even though she was suffering through a lot, she still maintained the tough girl act. The independent and talented young woman with an unyielding mindset was now acting completely out of character, as if she suddenly became a needy woman who desperately needed a man in her life. Completely opposite of what she acted like during all the encounters she had with Khan ever since they met in the finale of the Emperor's Chosen competition. However, suddenly, a pleased expression appeared on Khan's face. His entire countenance changed from that of dejection to a man who felt happy and even flustered after Cassandra's confession. Khan then turned his head away and spoke shyly. I've missed you too, he said in a cheerful tone. Cassandra was suddenly taken aback by Khan's words. The truth is, I fell for you the moment I saw you. I know it sounds very stupid, but for the first time, my heart fluttered for someone after we met, he said in a gentle and caring voice. Cassandra suddenly felt like the feeling was mutual between them, and then closed her eyes as she forced herself onto Khan. She kissed his cheek, then neck, and soon, her hands started running through Khan's undercoat and his shirt. One by one, she started unbuttoning his shirt, and as she was done, her soft palms ran through his chest and ripped abs. Khan, on the other end, grabbed Cassandra by her waist. His right palm grasped her left cheek, and the thumb touched her luscious lips. The left hand pulled her in his embrace. In the following moment, their hot bodies were closely stuck to each other, while Khan's masculine palms and strong arms ran over her back under the layer of her clothes. Khan then kissed Cassandra on her forehead, then her neck, and just like her, he too started to undress Cassandra as if he could no longer control himself and had given in to his deepest desires. He kissed both her cheeks over and over while Cassandra hugged him even tighter than before. Both of their bodies turned hot out of nowhere. Khan picked her up from her hips and took her to bed. At this point, Khan's upper body was completely exposed after Cassandra took off his clothes. Khan too slowly took off her top while only her red lingerie that was covering her 2 mountain peaks remained. Cassandra's face turned faint red, and she quickly wrapped her legs over Khan's waist as she came close to his face. She wrapped her arms around Khan's neck, and both of their gazes met each other with a sense of unending yearning. Their hot breaths collided against each other as the distance between their lips kept shortening. Both of them were in total heat at the moment, and the look on their faces felt as if both of them were nothing but a man and a woman reveling in ecstasy, wanting to ravage each other. And finally, when there was only an inch gap left between their lips, Cassandra closed her eyes, waiting for a passionate kiss. He embraced her tightly with his arms. Khan finally spoke the 3 magic words. You disappoint me. Khan's words sent shivers in Cassandra's body as he suddenly said that he was disappointed in her right when both of them were in the heat of the moment. She was frozen on the spot and her mind went in awry. Khan, on the other end, still had Cassandra in his embrace. Other than the thin layer of her lingerie, there was nothing else that separated their warm upper bodies. Cassandra suddenly returned to her senses and quickly pushed him off. She scooched over to the other side of the bed and covered her exposed body with her hands as she had finally understood that Khan wasn't buying her act. As for why Khan suddenly acted the way he did. After noticing the changes in her behavior, Khan inferred the situation at hand and figured out that once admirable Cassandra was now behaving like a completely different person. But he also realized that directly asking her won't help. So he decided to play along. Khan acted like that because he knew that asking politely won't help. Rather, a sudden confrontation and shock in the spur of the moment would yield a truthful answer. And that's why he decided to become intimate with her and caught her surprise. Yet, as he looked at her, Cassandra's face now had a plethora of complicated expressions, as if she had been wronged and yet felt guilty at the same time. But soon, beads of tears amassed in her eyes and her countenance turned to that of someone ashamed of themselves. "Sob. I'm sorry," she said. "Sob." In the following moments, the tears dropped from her cheeks as if a welled-up pain and agony were finally being let out like a broken dam. Her expression turned crestfallen and she looked away from Khan, feeling angry and disappointed in herself while she clenched her fist tightly. Khan was no longer a narrow-minded man who would start throwing blame and scorn at others just because they did something. And in the current situation, he felt like there was more than met the eye. Khan quickly got up and brought his black and gray long coat. He covered Cassandra, who couldn't dare to look him in the eyes. Yet Khan didn't intend to act like an ignorant and moody teen and start bad-mouthing her. Instead, HS calmly tried to assess as well as resolve the problem. "Can you tell me why you tried to seduce me?" he asked in a gentle and understanding tone. Cassandra kept sobbing with puffy eyes. Her fingers scrubbed off the eyelids and nose as she was doing her best to hold her tears inside. I was ordered to," spoke Cassandra with a scared and embarrassed voice. Even her words and voice felt like she could barely talk while the stream of tears kept falling. No matter how many times she wiped away her tears, one could tell that she was deeply hurt. Just then, the system notified Khan. System scan complete. The individual named Cassandra Michelson has no traces of mana in her body. She is no longer a magician or has any rank. Now she's a normal human, reported the system. Right when their half-naked bodies were in close contact, Khan ordered the system to scan Cassandra's body through his physical touch, like how he could scan other people's rank and levels before he became a semi-saint and an intermediate mage, to see whether she was under the influence of some sort of spell or mind control. But just now, the system reported Cassandra had completely lost her magic and her ability to use mana. In other words, she was no longer a prodigy of the Rakos Empire or even a normal sorceress. She was just a normal individual, like the majority of the people of this empire. Suddenly, a realization struck Khan. "Who did?" he asked Cassandra. "Updated from COM. My parents, the clan, and our faction's main council members. They forced me to do this," she replied with an aghast expression. Even talking about her own family made her body shudder in fear. "But why?" asked Khan with a befuddled face. "I don't know why, but they're under the impression that we both are very close to each other," she replied as he covered herself under his long coat. "But why did you agree? Could it be because—" spoke Khan. But before he could finish, Cassandra interjected. "I don't know the reason, but after the incident with Caladrius, I have not been able to recover my powers. My body's mana reserves have depleted and I can no longer absorb mana from cores or ores either. I have fallen in ranks and I no longer," said Cassandra as the words stopped in her mouth. He took a deep breath while the tears didn't stop. With a sobbing tone, she continued, "I can't use magic anymore," exclaimed Cassandra with a voice filled with defeat and hopelessness. She kept crying and wailing as the grief she had been holding inside for over a month had burst out. Khan, who was still half-naked, didn't interfere or speak a word. He understood that Cassandra needed to let out all of the sadness first, then forcing answers out of her. If his assumption was right, then Cassandra was suffering from self-doubt, sadness, anxiety, and desperation for the entire past month. A dozen minutes passed and finally, she regained some composure as she finally raised her head and looked at Khan. Unlike what one would expect, even in this room, where both of them were in a steamy situation not long ago, Cassandra noticed that Khan's eyes had nothing but genuine worry for her. I'm no longer the heiress of the Michelson clan," said Cassandra. "What? Is it because you no longer have your magic?" asked Khan. Cassandra nodded and spoke again. "Everyone has partially made Veronica the new heiress to the position of the clan leader. And I have been discarded, both from my position and as a member of the head family," she revealed. "And even my father and mother have stopped acknowledging me as their daughter, treating me as if I'm some sort of a burden," she explained with a heavy voice. "And the reason they sent me here," spoke Cassandra as her expression turned resentful and she revealed the truth, "to become your woman." As soon as Cassandra revealed the real reason why she was suddenly forced to act like a bitch in order to seduce Khan, the latter was completely flabbergasted. "My clan and the entire neutral faction, including our faction leader, want you to join my clan and also bring the Tablet of Arcana to them," she explained. "In return, they'd offer you a position in the faction and full support to aid you as the sovereign of Verlassen. If something like what happened with the demi-human faction happens again, they pledge to help you out and bury everything against you throughout the Empire. And all they want is you to become my husband and the son-in-law of the Michelson clan," spoke Cassandra with an irritated tone. "What the hell?" exclaimed Khan. "Why would they go so far? Don't they already have Celine Armitage to enter the Forbidden Zone?" he queried. "That's the main reason," responded the Raven Sorceress. "The Pureblood faction and Neutral faction are the only two factions with strong candidates who can enter that region. In the current situation, Victor is gone. I have lost my ability to use magic. So the Neutral faction only has Celine Armitage, while the Pureblood faction has you and Ezekiel Nabi. Just the two of you working together inside the Forbidden Zone is more than enough to ensure the success of the task and retrieve the Tablet of Arcana," revealed Cassandra. "But compared to everyone else, you're the strongest semi-saint of the entire Rocco's empire. Even both of them can't defeat you unless they join hands, which I don't see happening because Ezekiel is part of the Pureblood faction," he elaborated. "But why would they send you of all people?" asked Khan. To his question, Cassandra felt even more depressed but controlled her urge to cry again. "Now that I'm no longer worthy or a genius of the clan, they said that I should make myself useful at least. And hence, I was forced to offer myself to you," she said with an angered tone. "But why would they?" Just then, another realization struck Khan. The incident with him flirting with Cassandra during the finale of the Emperor's Chosen competition, where he admitted his affection towards her at the beginning of the fight, although he was taunting and trying to get in his enemy's head. Dumbass people would only see it as him falling head over heels for her. Then the incident with the Caladrius attack and his speech where he glorified Cassandra as a hero zealously in front of the whole fiefdom and through the recording that spread among the normal citizens of the Empire. And in the end, his walk with her in the garden on the day Cassandra left, which was witnessed by the people who were part of the envoy of the Michelson clan that came to pick her up. These three instances were enough to fan the flame to the assumptions of Khan having a deep relationship with the Raven Sorceress. That at least he liked her a lot. So Khan finally had the full view of the whole picture and quickly got the gist of the situation. After Cassandra's explanation, Khan understood why they went to the extent of even offering the clan heiress. They desperately wanted the Tablet of Arcana and were willing to sacrifice Cassandra's life for the sake of it. That bastard! Does power and authority matter so much to him that he sent his own daughter to act like a prostitute, just so they could win my favor and have me join their side now that Cassandra was no longer useful to them? Thought Khan as he was thoroughly infuriated. He tightly clenched his fist and looked at the helpless Cassandra. Even her parents abandoned and ostracized her as soon as she lost her usefulness. She became nothing but an offering for them to get the so-called Tablet of Arcana. Taking his relationship with Cassandra into account, and now that she was no longer useful to them, they treated her like a means to make the desperate final attempt. Since it was the only way because no saint could enter inside Verlassen or force Khan to join their side. Your uncle, Stronov Michelson, also proposed my marriage to Veronica before the finals. I guess he too wanted to use me for his personal gains back then, said Khan. Gasp. Really? But that was more than half a year ago. Did he know about you before the competition? Asked Cassandra with a surprised expression. But instead of replying, Khan started connecting all the dots inside his head. It's not that simple. I think it's not just your uncle, but even your father and Stalin Joseph, the faction leader, planned everything from the very beginning. He said. What do you mean? She asked. Remember the golden envelope that your father sent me? Your clan allied themselves with me. In the letter, he said that the Michelson clan does not wish to follow the commands and gang up with others in a vendetta against me. Tell me something. Your clan is one of the two strongest and most prestigious clans of the neutral faction. Could they really afford to become my allies without facing the wrath of the faction leader and the other powerful clans of the faction? Asked Khan. No, you're right. First, the Armitage clan would have made a big fuss over it, because their clan leader is actually a contender for the faction leader's position just like my father. No way in hell he'd let such an opportunity go, spoke Cassandra as she too came to a realization. But then, her entire body froze on the spot because she came to figure out another truth. Do you mean that they? Queried Cassandra with a shocked expression. Yes, it was all planned by them 7 months ago when I won the championship. You being present here, in these circumstances. Khan replied with a somber expression and made a revelation that shook Cassandra to her core. They planned to offer you to me even if you hadn't lost your magic. Cassandra was rooted on the spot. This was not something she ever dared to imagine. I had some suspicions of my own back then when I read the letter sent by your father. And now it perfectly makes sense, said Khan as he looked at the woman in front of him. This was the only explanation why the Michelson clan suddenly decided to ally themselves with Khan, just like the pureblood faction before all the young heirs arrived in Verlassen. Despite him being the one stealing the only opportunity of getting a fiefdom of their own where they'd be the absolute rulers. Cassandra quivered and had an expression of complete disbelief on her face. Because if Khan was right, which she also believed to be the truth given their situation, they planned to use her to get Khan on their side even before she lost her magic. When she was at her peak and could even stand against a legendary rank monster on her own. To Cassandra, this revelation shook all of her beliefs about herself, her clan, and the neutral faction. Even if she hadn't lost her magic due to the injuries caused by the Caladrius, they were eventually going to force her to act like a bitch by any means. Her losing the ability to use her magic was just an excuse. Things were set into motion even before she came to Verlassen. That she was nothing but a chess piece for them from the beginning. But why to make such a meticulous plan even before I took command of this fiefdom? Why does it even matter? It was all a lie. Why did I work so hard? I was nothing but a pawn for them, even for my family. Spoke Cassandra with lifeless eyes, as if her reality had been toppled. Another stream of tears ran across her cheeks, as she suddenly felt like her entire existence was meaningless. Everything she did to become a semi-saint sorceress, to live up to her clan's name and prestige. All the hard work she put in the past 15 years to become a worthy daughter of her parents. None of it even mattered. What did I work so hard for? They never treated me as a human being but an object they used for their selfish goals. She said, and even her body stopped breathing as Cassandra entered a state of severe depression. It was this moment, like everyone who would be shaken after finding that their whole life had no meaning, Cassandra had completely broken down. As if having no will to carry on any longer, she looked at the closest balcony of the room and slowly walked towards it. She looked outside and gazed at the ground from the border of the ledge. They were currently on the 3rd floor of this grand mansion. And since she was no longer a semi-saint or even had any mana in her body, the height, which was around 50 meters from the ground, was enough to get the job done. Sniff! Cassandra brushed off her tears, presumably for the last time. She took a step towards the stone parapet. Her figure suddenly leaned downwards, after having her life turned upside down from the past month, and now finding out that she had been seen as nothing but an expandable accessory to achieve their goals for her own family. Cassandra finally lost her voice of reason. A chilling breeze passed by and Cassandra, whose entire existence just crumbled and she decided to let go, grasped. Suddenly, a firm right hand wrapped around her waist from the front and stopped her from going forward with her decision. Khan stood beside Cassandra while looking in the opposite direction. His back faced the side of the parapet while he didn't make eye contact with Cassandra directly. You have two choices now. You can let your feelings and pain affect you and end your life here, or you can talk it out with me, spoke Khan as he loosened his grasp over her waist. Believe me when I say this, the first choice will end your suffering, but it will never turn things for the better or change anything even after you're gone from this world, he said in a firm and serious voice. If you go with the second choice, I promise that I will stand by your side till you're completely done with expressing yourself and let out your anger, hatred as well as all the sorrows you've been going through alone. And if you still don't feel like carrying on, I won't stop you, spoke Khan, because at this moment, he noticed something in Cassandra. Minutes ago, she found out that her existence itself meant nothing to her parents and family. The one she worked very hard since childhood to please and get the recognition of. Just for some unknown artifact, they chose to sacrifice her entire being and offered her to Khan on a platter. They sent her back to Verlassen just so they could reel him in. If Khan wasn't a good person, she would have been used like a plaything given the situation and only be treated like a toy. And the worst part was, she no longer had the strength, authority, or even the right to refuse. She didn't possess anything to even protect herself in the present situation. If Khan was someone who lusted after her body and wanted to take the advantage of the situation because of Cassandra's helplessness, the whole scenario would have been entirely different and Cassandra would probably experience something that no woman wanted to go through. As for Khan himself, Cassandra's sorrowful expression and her defeated eyes reminded Khan of a certain someone he knew very well. Someone who had seen the world crumble right before him. Someone who went through years of loneliness, misery, self-loathing, and that feeling of being left out since no one cared whether he lived or died. Because the Cassandra who stood on the edge, ready to let go of everything after having this massive existential crisis, reminded Khan of his previous life as Elric on the night he committed suicide. 10 minutes later, Khan forcefully carried Cassandra back to the bedroom before she made any stupid moves due to her current mental state. Although it looked like a hasty decision, as someone who had gone through it once, Khan knew how the mind of a depressed person actually worked, unlike the self-proclaimed experts on the internet and social media. When someone has had enough of suffering, constant defeat, their lives changing drastically, and realizing that their whole existence didn't matter, in that mental state you feel like you're a worthless being. And letting go of it all seems like the only way because you feel caged inside your body. The mind loses all rationality and voice of reason while the heart-wrenching sadness makes you feel like you don't deserve to live. And in those moments when you've mentally broken down, you make decisions that you might never return from. Soon, Khan left the room as Cassandra properly dressed up again while he donned his white shirt, black tie and undercoat outside of the room. Cassandra, having no choice but to comply because she knew that Khan won't let her jump anyway. And now that she was just a normal human, she wouldn't be able to die even if she willed it. After she got out of the room while still being covered in his long coat, Khan took her to the wide terrace. Both of them sat on a wooden sofa under the bright and serene moonlight. As for why was Khan trying to act like her therapist? Because he was in a similar situation just like Cassandra back when he lived as Elric on Earth. And that night, there was no one who came for him. No one stopped him or said that it was going to be okay. Although he felt bad for her, there was nothing he could do to help her come out of this situation. So at least he wanted to be that person for Cassandra. Speak everything you want to say. Don't think that it's weird to let your heart out in front of a stranger. I'm not going to judge you or even pity you. You don't need to convince me or think about how I will change my opinion about you. Just speak the truth that you want to let out. I'm all ears, spoke Khan. Cassandra was still in the phase of losing her will to live since her whole life has been proven meaningless. Tears of sorrow dropped from her face again. This was the worst day of her life. After a few minutes, she barely mustered up the courage and strength to speak again. I grew up pretty lonely despite living together with both of my parents. They were always busy doing things I didn't understand. Other than having 2 meals together, there was hardly any time we spent together. Growing up, I always wanted my parents' attention and approval, that they were proud of me as their daughter. And I worked very hard to surpass others and live up to their reputation, my family name, who are the descendants of the first sage. Even in the Magic Academy, I was always avoided by others because of my heritage. Other than my cousins who grew up with me, I never had any other friends or anyone I was familiar with outside of the main family. Spoke Cassandra in a hoarse voice. Instead of wanting to play house or spending time with other kids, I sacrificed my freedom to learn magic as soon as I could think on my own. But even after I did everything, surpassed all of my peers, and excelled in magic by putting in a lot of effort, there was no one who praised me or said that it was because of my own hard work. From childhood till now, I have only lived in the shadows of her parents' glory and their prestige, said Cassandra with a jittery tone as her hands trembled. Ever her face had a constricted expression as she slowly started to express her mind. I even unlocked an ancient rank job with sheer will and hard work, but then my family told me not to reveal it to anyone. The Emperor's chosen competition was going to be my chance to prove myself to everyone. And after I lost to you, no one even reprimanded me, as if they never expected me to win in the first place. She said with the eyes of a person who at least wanted to be scolded for her failures. But she didn't even get that. Rather, everyone in my family focused on you and your rule as the sovereign of this fiefdom. And in a way, you became the biggest target I wanted to surpass. Spoke Cassandra as she brushed off a teardrop on her right cheek. But when I met you that day along with the other heirs, I knew that I couldn't even touch your shadow at this rate. But I still persevered and hoped to achieve my goal one day. But now, she said, and suddenly stopped speaking. Her head fell down and she clasped her palms. I could have managed to accept it that they offered me to you after I lost my powers. In this world, only powerful rule over others anyway. But if they planned to do so even without me still being as powerful as I was, then what does that mean? Asked Cassandra as she looked at Khan with an expectant gaze. That I was not worthy in their eyes even with all of my strength and achievements? She asked, and soon had another meltdown. As she kept sobbing, Khan was reminded of himself back when he lived as Elric. His story while growing up wasn't much different than hers. Just that, he chose to seclude himself from others while Cassandra was an outcast because of her family's background. And no matter the efforts and achievements, there were still higher levels of expectations. Both of them were the victims of failed parenting. While talking with Cassandra, Khan came to realize how similar their situations were after Cassandra started expressing her pain and suffering little by little. In his life as Elric, it wasn't like he never tried to appease his parents or gain their recognition. He was born with a weak body and hence had many disadvantages when it came to sports or any athletics. There were times when he made the best use of his eidetic memory and topped in school competitions. But what use was it if your family didn't even bother to come to cheer you up? He was like an unwanted child born out of mistake to his parents. Hence, as Elric grew up, he never had real motivation or urge to excel in these fields. Because no matter what he did, whether it was sports or academics, it was never enough for them. The standards his parents set for him were too high. Instead of trying to understand their son and accept him for being different than their first 2 children, what his parents did was only compare him and then act like it was his fault. They cared more about what would the society think or what their relatives would say about their fake prestige than actually trying to encourage their youngest son. For Cassandra, it was the same. However, the only difference was that she really did achieve most of it. But now, they found out that all of her efforts were futile in the end, as her parents and her family thought of her as nothing but livestock that they could trade for some gains or political favor. If it wasn't Khan whom they decided to offer Cassandra to, maybe her fate would have been sealed if it was some noble clan or some powerful figure. Instead of having such a talk when she had broken down, Cassandra would probably have to endure even worse suffering. In a way, their current circumstances turned out to be at least better than what they failed to recognize. Hours passed under the moonlight while Cassandra let out all of her sadness, sorrows, hatred, and even cursed in words Con hadn't even heard in both his lives. After Con offered her to be the person she could vent out all of her misery and anger to, Cassandra, who no longer wanted to live, was calming down little by little. Her rambling and cursing the entire world resounded in the surroundings, and she wasn't holding back, bringing even the events that happened years ago and cursing every single member of her family who betrayed her. Con, on the other end, felt relieved. Neither did he judge her nor made fun of her. He was simply there, as a person who listened to her story and true feelings. At this moment, Con realized one thing, that he and Cassandra, a man born on Earth and a woman born in Vantria, from two different worlds, had much more in common than he ever imagined. A cold breeze passed by both of them while Cassandra finally took a deep breath. Her turmoiled mind finally regained control over herself, and she closed her eyes to contemplate her life. Even Con wondered if he could have managed to come out of that trance state as Elric this quickly like Cassandra. Although he lent a helping hand, coming out of the mental state of wanting to kill yourself was no joke. "Thank you," spoke Cassandra. Her disheveled hair and puffy cheeks appeared in front of Con. The princess-like Cassandra now looked like a girl who had messed up her makeup, and her once crying figure now seemed to be recovering a bit from her depressed state. "I don't think I would have managed to feel less burdened if you didn't stop me," she said with a thoughtful expression. Con nodded but didn't say anything. It had been nearly 4 hours since Con started the session, and Cassandra went through many emotional phases. From sadness to anger, from hatred to loss, from helplessness to wrath. She had expressed so many things and how she felt like a worthless being after she was traded off like some goods. "You're welcome," replied Con in a gentle tone. "So does it mean you no longer want to jump down?" asked Con with a coy smile. Cassandra then gave him a suspicious look. "Who knows? I still might," she said. "Why? Now I feel as if I wasted 5 precious hours of my life." "Man, what a waste of time," said Con and shook his head. Cassandra suddenly looked at Con and gave him a deathly look. "Bastard," she said and looked away, a sense of playfulness appearing on her face. "Oh, now I'm the bad guy? My. Some people really don't know how to appreciate kindness. You should be indebted to me for life after I stopped you," spoke Con sarcastically. Cassandra turned her face towards him and glared at Con. "Is that so? Then why didn't you start with that instead of going along with my act? Tell me, you enjoyed that, didn't you?" asked Cassandra. Con quickly turned her head around and looked at the scenery in the surrounding. "The night feels very beautiful," he said. "Hey, you opportunistic rascal. Take responsibility for playing with a maiden's honor," said Cassandra as she lightly punched him on the right shoulder. "I don't understand what you're talking about. I only remember there was a woman and then I don't remember anything," Con joked. "Hiya, do you think I'm an easy girl? If not for my situation, you think I would be in the same room as you? Hundreds of marriage proposals are queued up for a beautiful girl like me," spoke Cassandra as she adjusted her shiny raven hair. "Beautiful girl?" asked Con and looked around him and Cassandra with a suspicious gaze. "Where?" he asked nonchalantly. "You bastard," said Cassandra and started a barrage of fists and punches with her weak and soft hands. Con got off the sofa and slowly ran away. "Hey, come here," said Cassandra and ran off after Con. He, on the other end, started avoiding her incoming punches as both of them started a little play of catch. Both Con and Cassandra knew that this was just a childish act to lighten up the mood. But to them, this was a gateway to forget their worries and problems for a while. After going through such a mental breakdown, Cassandra finally regained her old self, and Con, on the other hand, felt relieved. And this little shenanigan was their moment of peace. As the serene bright night under the 2 moons in the sky was coming close to an end, Con and Cassandra sat on the sofa again while the gentle breeze freshened their bodies and mind. For some reason, both of them didn't want this night to end. "This is nice," said Cassandra as she looked at the two moons and basked in their soothing light. She looked at Khan with an expression of gratitude. If the man whom she once saw as a rival hadn't been so mature and understanding of her situation, she was certain that she would have committed suicide and ended her life to escape the pain and heartbreak. And like Khan told her, it wouldn't have made any change at all. And the one to lose in every aspect would be her. I should do the same. If you have anything to say, tell me. I can also be a good listener, spoke Cassandra. Khan let out a slight smile and replied, be careful what you wish for. My story isn't something that great. You'll be bored to death. Challenge accepted, said Cassandra with a playful tone. For the first time in the past month, ever since her fight with Caladrius, Cassandra let out a genuine cheerful smile. Khan, for some reason, did not want to play mysterious anymore and spoke. My life is similar to yours in some way, and plenty different at the same time, spoke Khan as he gazed at the blank space. It's full of misery, plenty of mistakes and regrets. Are you sure you want to hear? Added Khan. You're the textbook definition of a great person. Something akin to the historical figures we read about in books. A prodigy born amongst the poor, who lost his parents at a young age and through the sheer hard work and heaven-defying will, you even became the most talented as well as the strongest semi-saint. On top of it, you're the new emperor's chosen champion and also a sovereign at the same time. I refuse to believe that your life is anything as you're making out to be, said Cassandra. But still, I'll listen, and I promise I won't judge you. She continued and nodded in affirmation. Khan sighed and spoke without holding back. I grew up in a similar situation. To my parents, I was nothing but a failure. No matter what I did, it was never enough. In the end, I had a family, but I was no different than an orphan, he said. Cassandra suddenly had an alarmed expression. And now, I have too much blood on my hands, both guilty and innocent, said Khan as he started with the topics people would naturally avoid right off the bat. There was a time when I foolishly condemned an entire clan's future because one of their leaders tried to kill me, he said with a serious voice. Khan then remembered how he killed off all the stronger members of Stragobor Sigurd's clan because their young master, a beginner-rank grandmaster, had poisoned him in a banquet of nobles and influential figures. And there was a time when an innocent woman died because I stole something from someone. And to find me, those people tortured her to death. But even till her last breath, she did not speak my name because I had saved her life twice. Because of my greed and foolishness, she died in agony and alone. And to make a statement, they hung her corpse on a tree close to my house, spoke Khan. The one he talked about was obviously Jessica Artwinger, the redhead girl Khan saved when he just exited the Abyss Forest and saved a caravan from a group of bandits. Later, he saved her in a dungeon floor and robbed a space ring from the corpse of the dead leader of a guild who was hunting the floor boss. And because she was the only survivor of that group, they caught her and tortured Jessica to find out about Khan. But even after having her nails ripped off and her face beaten with an iron mace, she never spoke his name until she finally died a miserable death. Cassandra gasped in surprise as soon as she heard Khan. This was not what she was expecting to hear from the man she had come to admire at this point. And after finding out about what happened, I stormed inside the guild that caused her death. In my moment of rage, I killed over 100 people that day in the name of revenge, many of whom probably didn't even know anything about her death, iterated Khan. That was the very day when Khan stormed inside the guild headquarters of the Red Lion Adventurer Guild, and then later, he killed all of their top fighters in the Sintra dungeon while his head was filled with guilt and fury. Cassandra then covered her mouth as she was unable to accept this revelation. Although she was aware that this was a cutthroat world, she had never killed a person in her life so far. There was a time when I tried to cause a revolution with the hope to change people's lives, only to foolishly lead them to their deaths because they weren't organized and there was no true leader. My acts of acting like a hero lead to over 1,000 deaths of those who tried to rebel against the powerful, mentioned Khan. After his crusade as Azrael started in order to bring justice to the noble clan heirs who are *ped and murdered the daughter of Albestros as well his son, Khan gave a moving speech when he carried out the punishment of the last heir that sparked the fire of rebellion among the masses. But since the commoners who had been oppressed for most of their lives in Flavit City didn't have any weapons, weren't organized or had someone to lead them, the aftermath caused over 1,000 deaths. At this moment, Cassandra was rooted on the spot, because so far all her encounters with Khan gave her a good impression of him. But now, she came to know the truth about him, that the man in front of her had walked a path made of blood and bones of the innocents. Cassandra was left speechless, rooted on the spot, bewildered, and shocked by each incident Khan mentioned and how his actions caused the deaths of a lot of innocent people. But this didn't seem like the end of the story either. Later, when I went to Rathna, I made enemies out of a lot of powerful people in order to establish my businesses and earn money. But as a consequence of my brazen actions and picking fights with the Chamber of Commerce, hundreds of my employees, who had nothing to do with anything, ended up being hunted and dying. On some occasions, the killers finished off the whole family to not leave any witnesses. They didn't spare children, the elderly, or even the newborn babies. Although I avenged them too, the fact remains that their blood is on my hands. If only I had realized that I was no longer responsible for myself but people who worked for me at the same time, maybe all those families would still be living happily, said Khan as he blamed himself, which was indeed his fault. Although he wiped out the entire Red Right-Hand assassination organization that was hired by the main council members of the Chamber of Commerce of the Rukon district, the loss of life still remained. In all those situations and moments, my actions seemed like reasonable choices when I was trying to advance in life. But now that I look back at what I did, I see nothing but an overconfident, foolish, ignorant, and hypocritical man. He confessed. This was the reason why Khan never thought of himself as the good guy, because whether he intended or not, there was too much blood on his hands because of the choices he made. Tell me something. Would the people of this fiefdom or the empire accept someone like me if they knew this truth? Would they believe in all the good I have done so far or just discard it away because of my past mistakes? Can they understand me? Can you understand me? Asked Khan. Cassandra had no answer to his questions. In her eyes, Khan was the most perfect man she had come to know. He was talented, strong, reliable, kind, and mature than any other person in her age group. But now, the good image of the man who saved her and stopped her from committing suicide suddenly seemed tainted. There was a time when I was in a similar situation as you. I too had both those choices in front of me, to give up or carry on and endure. Today, I am where I am because of the decision I took that night. Maybe I would have a different life if I made a different choice back then, said Khan. He reminisced the night of his suicide and only gave vague information about it to Cassandra. Like how your parents cast you off and betrayed you. I once went through a similar situation as well. And the worst part is, I have a mental trauma, because of which there aren't many people whom I can trust even now. And so far, I don't truly have friends either. Recently, I noticed that I willingly don't let people get close to me, admitted Khan, referencing the final push that made him jump from the building as he ended his life as Elric. A silence ensued as both parties in the conversation suddenly stopped speaking. The more she heard Khan speak his mind, the more shock she kept receiving. What trauma? Asked Cassandra as she steeled her will. That I don't trust anyone, especially women, spoke Khan with a content smile, like a psychopath. Cassandra's entire being suddenly shivered. You're like the most eligible bachelor of the entire Rocco's empire. Half of the females in this whole empire, regardless of their age and race, fancy you. And you're saying that you have a trauma against women? Says Cassandra in a, it's better this way, for me, and them, he replied. I'd rather live a life of solitude than go through it all again. At this rate, I'm afraid I'll become someone who doesn't even value life, and I will end up becoming a person who would kill anyone just to achieve my selfish goals. Just like your family who used you as an object to gain my favor. Spoke Khan truthfully. Cassandra had a complex expression on her face after Khan kept revealing many things about himself to her. Suddenly, Cassandra decided to speak her mind. It's not like you willingly made those decisions while knowing the consequences. I can understand why you blame yourself, but at least in my opinion, you're not completely evil. Evil is evil. Lesser, greater, middling, makes no difference. The degree is arbitrary. The definition's blurred. If I'm to choose between one evil and another, I'd rather not choose at all, said Khan in a stoic voice. Another silence ensued as Cassandra herself started contemplating Khan's words. To her, those words sounded like wisdom spoken by an old man who spent decades exploring the world and had too much knowledge and experience about the world. A few minutes passed and she spoke again. I take back what I said. Our lives are different in many ways, and I made the mistake of making presumptions about something I have not experienced myself. The next moment, however, she looked Khan in the eyes with a firm gaze. And I thought I had a lot of emotional baggage. I suffered only for a month, and acting like an idiot, I wanted to end my life. You, on the other end, you've been suffering from it for years, she said in an empathetic tone. Don't be fooled, Cassandra. I'm not the kind you should feel sorry for. You will find many people like me in this world, and you can't afford to be kind or understanding to them, because they certainly won't. Spoke Khan with a somber expression. As for me, he continued in a grim tone as he had a chance to self-reflect for the first time. I'm someone who doesn't deserve any salvation. Khan's stern voice resounded on the terrace as he declared that he was beyond salvation because of his actions in the past. The burden called guilt had been weighing down on him for a long time. But it was this night that he had the chance to finally speak his mind. This instantly made Cassandra worry about Khan. Before tonight, their relationship was no different than rivals and then allies. But after spending the last 7 hours together, during which too many things happened like a drama show, the bond between them had turned to that of close friends. Both of them shared their feelings about the world, their lives and secrets that they never told anyone about. Cassandra quickly grabbed Khan's hand and spoke in a worried tone. Don't beat yourself up. The fact that you feel guilty and hold yourself accountable is more than enough to see that you didn't intend to take innocent lives. Those are indeed caused by your actions, but it wasn't like you wanted to kill them in the first place. Deep down, you're still a good person, Khan. Don't let your mistakes define the rest of your life. She spoke in a caring voice. She tightened the grip on his palm and came closer to his face. Cassandra went from victim to the one carrying on the counseling after she found out how Khan's life had been twisted to the point of him blaming himself even for things he couldn't have foreseen or controlled. If it wasn't for you, I would have committed suicide and died a useless death not even worth pitying. Always remember that you have at least one person who will listen to you from now on, spoke Cassandra with a firm voice. She herself was screwed over big time, and had no power to change her fate either. Yet she acted like a brave woman and a friend for his sake. Khan had done the same for her, and now it was her turn. Don't worry, it's not that serious. The reason I told you all these things about myself is to make you realize that what you're going through is something I have experienced as well. So don't give up on yourself even in the future when things look tough. You're much stronger compared to me when I was in the same situation as you. People take months to recover from what you just went through. So do not look down on yourself. You may no longer have the ability to use your magic, but your will surpasses even mine by many times, said Khan as he reaffirmed Cassandra. As for why Khan vented out to her and told Cassandra the truth about his guilt and the consequences of his actions, because he wanted her to realize that although others had what she didn't, their lives weren't better or honorable either. Also, Cassandra was not in a position to harm him. Rather, she'd keep his secrets to her grave. Not that anyone was going to believe her anyway, even if someone used some mind control skill on her. So taking this opportunity, Khan let off a lot of mental burden he had been keeping to himself for more than a year now and confessed in front of her. As the morning suns finally arose, Cassandra fell asleep due to the mental overexhaustion that she went through over the past 7 hours. Khan looked at Cassandra's tired yet beautiful face. and spoke to himself, "Don't lose hope. I'll take care of everything." Because as things stood, the truth did not change even now. Cassandra still had no magic, and she was as useful as a doormat to her family and clan. If she reported that she couldn't win Khan's heart or charm him into joining their side, Khan wouldn't even be surprised if they offered her to someone else later in the future or gave her a severe punishment for failing the task. Just then, Khan received a message from his hidden assassins. "Master, we found some people on the northern end of the mansion 3 kilometers away. They're using some sort of artifact to check out on you," spoke one of Khan's small-time assassin subordinates through their telepathy link skill. "I know. I sensed them a while ago. I guess they were checking if Cassandra did what she was told to or not." He then looked at peacefully sleeping Cassandra again. "Only if I had a way to help her get her powers back," thought Khan. In the afternoon, Cassandra woke up on the bed. But it wasn't the bedroom of the mansion. Rather, it was Khan's bedroom inside his castle. "You're up," spoke Khan, who was leaning on a sofa in the room. "Get ready. You need to have a proper meal. And prepare to return to your clan." "Why?" asked Cassandra. Just then, she was reminded of the consequences because she had obviously failed her mission. "I'm done. I'm so done," she spoke to herself. "Don't worry. I have a way," spoke Khan in an assuring tone. The following moment, he took a black and golden envelope out of his space ring. "You should return to your clan and give this letter to your father. Nobody other than him should read it. Trust me on this one," spoke Khan. In the evening, Khan allotted a warship and thousands of his Covenant soldiers to act as guards for Cassandra. But he did not tell her anything about what was written inside the letter. The following day, Cassandra reached her clan's main castle and reported to clan's main council, albeit very hesitantly. Now, she saw every single person in this room as an enemy. Cassandra then gave the letter sent by Khan to her father, Damon Michelson, who was a 6th-stage saint magician. And after a thorough read, her father had a very pleased expression and said, "Well done. You were worth raising after all." Cassandra's mind turned furious as soon as those words landed on her ears. She clenched both her fists tightly but did not show her anger through her expressions. As for the letter, it contained some conditions Khan wrote. But other than that, Damon Michelson paid the most attention to the last lines. "I will visit the Michelson clan when I'm done with the job. Until then, take care of my woman." Khan was carrying out his duties while dozens of government officials presented him with reports and sanctions that needed his attention. The sovereign on the other end was lost in thoughts as he remembered the choice he made yesterday. The letter he sent to the Michelson clan had words such as calling Cassandra as his woman. But the contents included many more details than just that part. Although Khan repaid Cassandra by saving her life, it was also a truth that he left Cassandra on her own. And neither was it his fault that her family was full of selfish bastards who would sacrifice her for the sake of some powerful ally. But after spending a night together with Cassandra and having talked their hearts out, knowing how their lives were similar in some ways, the bond between them as friends had deepened. For the first time in this new life, Khan felt like there was indeed someone he could be himself with. The fact that Cassandra did not judge him and told him to not blame himself for his past mistakes made Khan realize that she wasn't the type who only saw worse in people despite suffering from helplessness and betrayal herself. Compared to the Elric of the past and the Khan of the present, she was much stronger as a person, unlike him who still couldn't overcome his trauma and didn't trust people or let others in his comfort zone. Even someone like Albestros, who he knew for more than 1.5 years now, had never seen this side of Khan at this point. This indeed elevated his opinion of Cassandra to a new level, and he found her as a trustworthy individual that he could confide in. So for now, he decided to create a temporary solution for her until things turned in his favor. And even if Khan couldn't find a solution to get her powers back, he decided to play along with her clan and faction's offer for now till gain some bargaining chips of his own. Meanwhile, the contract between him and the Pureblood faction only stated that Khan would get the rewards only when he accomplished the task and gave them the Tablet of Arcana. But there was a loophole in the contract itself. It never said that he must deliver the said object or his life will be jeopardized. So now that he was offered another choice by the neutral faction, he decided to play both sides. Because the pureblood faction had screwed him over a couple of times in the past, it'd be his turn if he decided after he acquired the tablet. He'd have a choice to pick the most beneficial side then. And also, this way he could stall for time until he had some way to find a way for Cassandra. Not due to pity or obligation, but because he wanted to. As for the reason he called her his woman in the letter, Khan felt like he should at least ensure her safety and make sure that they won't create unnecessary trouble or harass her because she failed her task in reality. Besides, knowing how cunning and ruthless the neutral faction was at this point, if Khan had refused their offer, they would have spread rumors that he actually joined their side, eventually making him the enemy of the entire pureblood faction as well as Alistair Moore Vandereyck. Although Khan had a lot of prestige, if one of the strongest beings of the Empire wanted to kill him, when he became a saint, he'd have to leave Verlassen fiefdom, and no one would ever find out about how Khan died. So to avoid that, Khan would obviously have to join the neutral faction even if he did not want to. So instead of giving them an opportunity to manipulate the narrative, he put them on standby, so they won't mess up with him until the deed is done. So using this method, Khan had stalled for enough time and also opened new options for himself. And now, the only thing that was left to do for Khan was to enter the Forbidden Zone. 1 week later, Khan had spent the past few days making arrangements to have people operate the entire fiefdom in his absence along with the generals. Just a couple of days ago, Armin had finally finished healing Khan's damaged soul, and now he was back to his former state before he sacrificed a portion of it to save Cassandra. Although his levels hadn't completely recovered even now, he could at least go all out during a fight. Khan then arranged a meeting between him, Omega, and all the generals in one of the closed rooms of the castle. On the round table in the center, he placed a map in front of them. This was the exact map sent by Alistair Moore Vandereyck, the faction leader of the pureblood faction who had sailed deliver it to Khan. And the map pinpointed a particular path that he needed to clear out in order to access the entrance of the Forbidden Zone that was situated in the Verlassen fiefdom. This path was one of the only 3 entry points, and Khan had no other alternatives unlike the other factions and their semi-saints. After discussing their plan of action, Khan and the gang arrived at a military headquarters on one of the borders. Khan brought Jugram, Cyril, Armin and Blackwell, Ronan, Oliver and Omega. Even the mythical rope named Rudra had recently woken up after he was done with absorbing Jormungandr's bloodline and abilities. So Khan was now back to his full power, and the whole gang was akin to a group of supervillains who were on their way to cause mass destruction. The whole squad had come to the border of the region called Niflheim. This time, Khan didn't plan to play stupid and ignorant. This time he was going all out. Because Niflheim wasn't just a normal border. It was actually the 6th and final hotspot